our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Mystical experiences are by their very nature elusive and hard to describe. Writer Michael Ramsey describes mysticism as an intense realization of God within the self, and the self embraced in God in vivid nearness. I like Jim's description of a mystic and mystical experience much better. The idea of a party. And I do think that a mystic is someone who knows a party is going on and can't wait to get to it. So much so that the party of God lives within the mystic. So, was Mary having a mystical experience when what we now call the Annunciation occurred? In some sense, every divine encounter, including all those that I will be working through during this Advent and Christmas season, is a mystical experience. Coming face to face with God in whatever way it happens has got to bring up mystery and awe and wonder and delight. Labeling Mary's encounter as mystical and all the others as something else is completely arbitrary. But I'm going to do it today anyway. That which is mystical comes in many forms. I'm also keenly aware, being kind of, let's see, I'm a left brain, right brain, whatever I am, that talking about mysticism and analyzing a mystical experience is not really what mystics would think you ought to do. Analyzing a mystical experience, is a little bit like organizing happiness. Or, I won't go any further than that. You get the idea. But mysticism is supposed to be something supremely ephemeral and subjective and extrasensory, beyond our senses. Having said this, I still think a conversation about meeting the divine in the mystic and mystical moments is appropriate, if for no other reason than we moderns allow so little time for mystical experiences to happen, for numinous and transcendence to be a part of our lives. Everything has to be explained and put on Facebook as a post. I had a mystical experience today at 3:05, and I also had pad thai at 4. So maybe just a moment or two thinking about mystical experiences might be helpful. But as I thought more and more, what kept coming to my mind is that the most common description of mysticism in modern America, at least in my experience, is not the Christian tradition, but the Islamic tradition. Because I hear and see images of whirling dervishes. How many of y'all have seen at least a picture of a whirling dervish? Someone in a turban or some kind of a Middle Eastern hat and a big, wide or colorful robe, and as they turn, it spins and spins. How many of you all have heard of the writer, the thinker, the prophet Rumi? Rumi's very popular. Lots of Rumi quotes and memes on Facebook. Well, let's look a little bit at these two, because I think they kind of get us back into the Christian way of having mystical experiences. Whirling dervishes. Whirling is a customary dance performed within the worship ceremony of certain Islamic traditions, the Sufi tradition to be precise. And these dervishes, or these persons doing it, I don't know if they're priests or they're lay people, or maybe they're deacons, something like that. These dervishes and deacons, that sounds pretty good, don't you think? Dervish deacons. Not devilish, but dervish deacons. Aim to reach the source of all perfection, This is sought through abandoning one's own ego and personal desire by listening to the music and spinning one's body in repetitive circles, which has been seen as a symbolic imitation of the planets of the solar system. Isn't that cool? When you feel so at one with God that you feel like you might even be imitating the solar system, there's a mystic experience, right? No marijuana or LSD, legal or not, needed. Now Rumi is perhaps the most famous mystic, at least if you look at a lot of quotes on the internet. He's a 13th century Persian, the area we know as Iran and Iraq and that area. And he wrote, I'm just going to give you two quick quotes that I think really summarize Rumi as a mystic. Remember, the entrance door to the sanctuary is inside you. Remember, the entrance door to the sanctuary is inside you. That's mysticism. He also wrote, in the sight of love, fear isn't even as great as a single hair. In the law of love, everything is offered as sacrifice. Fear isn't even as great as a single hair. The law of love is everything is offered as sacrifice. Both of these quotes, I think, are intensely appropriate for Mary, the mother of Jesus, and that moment she had with the angel Gabriel, which I'm calling a supremely mystical moment. So, enough talk about mystical experiences. I think I would rather maybe not make us have a mystical experience, because that's actually antithetical to mysticism too, but I would like to offer you a chance to think more than just in words, but in words and in images and in music. If we're a good go, Tim, we are. And I'm going to offer you this poem, which is a meditation on this young girl, Mary. Perplexed and pondering. The angel interpreted fear, but was it fear? Perhaps this was the fulfillment of all that she ever believed and hoped for. Or was it in an instant a young girl's wondrous imaginings of all that could be dashed to the ground? Favored she was, yes, but willing? One could only hope. One could only pray. One could only imagine. Meeting the divine messenger face to celestial face is no small feat for any of us. But if this God has anything to say about it, such encounters are reserved for the low life, the low brow, the low-lying lovelies, which populate the scriptural countryside. Shepherd boys and servant girls seem to get all the attention of this one true God. Pharaohs and kings and high priests keep moving on. There's nothing for you to see. Confused? Or just intrigued by the details? This girl was. She inquires, how will this be? The answer is as elusive as as an anxious parent telling a toddler where babies come from. Holy Spirit visitations and powerful overshadowing are hardly comforting, much less illuminating. Dr. Spock and Dr. Ruth could do a much better job. And the babe, already forming in her womb, this babe will be no shrinking violet, no blip on the proverbial radar screen of life. He will be someone. He will be someone. And in the fine tradition that brought this news to this peasant household, this someone will not be clothed in royal robes of human fashion, but in regal attire of divine crafting, more sackcloth than robe, more a shepherd's crook than scepter, the people's monarch, a truly humble sovereign. One heart on earth, and that very same heart in heaven, always holding both and. Absorbing this, she acknowledges the course correction. And in 12 short verses, in terse biblical style, her life changed dramatically. Irreversibly. Wonderfully. As did the course of human history. But given the consolation of a relative in an equally audacious pregnancy, Mary nods her head. In strength and in confidence, much more than in acquiescence. Let it be with me according to your word. And it was. Amen. And as we bring our service to a close, it has been full of many different things. I pray that each one of us seeks those places in life where we can see the face of God. And I pray that we set aside time where mystery might just break into our lives and surprise us. If you're looking for a community in which to do that, and you haven't found one and would like to place your membership with this congregation, I would love for you to come forward as we sing the next hymn. But even more importantly, if you have not committed your life to this low-life, low-lying, low-brow shepherd king of ours, now's the time. I invite you also to come forward. But let all of us stand and sing together.